Hello and welcome to Shoals Marine Lab. I'm Matthew Lynn, and today we have with us Dr. Liz Craig of the Tern Colony. Today we will learn about how she got to her career position, as well as the research she is conducting. Let's begin. Dr. Craig, we're very glad to have you here with us today. Can you please tell us from where you are?
Sure. So my name is Dr. Liz Craig. I work at Shoals Marine Laboratory at the University of New Hampshire.
Currently, where are you in your career?
So I am the program manager of the Tern Conservation Program here at Shoals Marine Lab. And I have just finished my PhD a couple years ago, done a postdoc, and then come here to work at UNH as a researcher and a lecturer at UNH.
Finally, for our biographical segment, can you please tell us what inspired you to begin a career in science?
That's a really great question. So when I was in high school, I volunteered at a wild bird rehabilitation center, and I really enjoyed the hands-on experience of working with wildlife. But I got to the point where I found it frustrating that there wasn't more that we could do for birds as a whole. We could do a lot for individuals, but the same problems kept coming up time after time. So I was really interested in getting more experience and following a career in wildlife conservation research.
That's great to hear. Moving on to our technical narrative, can you please explain to us why the tern feeding events are important?
Absolutely. So from a broader perspective, the birds that we're studying, the common tern, the roseate tern, and the Arctic tern, are all threatened and endangered species here in New Hampshire and Maine, where the Shoals Marine Lab operates. And so we are interested in learning as much as we can in order to protect these threatened and endangered birds. So one aspect of that is getting a better understanding of their diet so that we know, first of all, what are the important diet items for those birds, and also whether they're getting enough of those important diet items to take care of their chicks and raise their chicks to a good weight before they have to do a really long distance migration.
Well, I'm most certainly interested to know more. Can you please tell us in a single sentence what the question you're trying to answer is?
Sure. So our largest question here is, what are the adult terns bringing back to their chicks in order to feed them, and is the diet that they're feeding them sufficient and appropriate for the growth of the chicks?
Well, that's very great to know. Can you also please tell us why the audience should care about tern feeding events?
So there are two perspectives that we're really interested in this question from. The first is from the perspective of the birds. Are the birds actually getting enough high-quality food items in order to feed their chicks so that their populations can grow? That's the first perspective. We want to know, is the Gulf of Maine environment providing enough high-quality food? The other perspective is from the everyday individual, the inhabitant of New Hampshire or Maine, someone who eats seafood from the Gulf of Maine, who's interested in the sustainability of fisheries throughout this region. So we're actually using the observations of diet from the terns to get a better understanding of the fish populations in the whole Gulf of Maine. And that way we can actually provide data to fisheries managers. They can better understand the effects that fisheries are having on the fish populations, and also to make more educated management decisions to protect the birds, but also to protect the sustainable fish populations.
And perhaps could you please elaborate on how you're answering this question?
So one of the interesting things about the biology of the tern is that instead of swallowing a diet item and then regurgitating it up for its chick, the adult actually brings a whole fish back in its bill in order to feed its chick. So you can make visual observations of what the birds are eating. So in order to take advantage of that, we are making visual observations either from an observation blind or from a remote view camera of feeding events that occur at specific nests around the colony. So for a couple hours every day, typically about 2 hours every day, we're watching each nest to see the adult come back to the nest, and we make observations about the type of food it's bringing back. Is it a fish or an invertebrate? How large is the diet item? And which chick in the nest actually receives that diet item?
Finally, Dr. Craig, while we both know that science can be a long process, can you please tell us the results you found so far?
Absolutely. So we're still in the middle of analyzing results from this year, but we've been collecting these types of data for many years. And what we found is that the really high quality diet items for these terns are fish like herring and hake. And this year so far we are seeing a fair number of herring and hake being brought by the adults to feed the chicks. But we also see a good number of feedings where adults are bringing less ideal, less appropriate diet items to the chicks. So butterfish is a really great example. This is a warmer water fish that a lot of the times you'll see the adults bring back to their chicks. So the adults have no problem catching a small butterfish, but because it's a very deep-bodied fish, the chicks can't consume it. They actually can't even swallow the fish at all. So what we're finding is that in addition to some high-quality diet items, the adults are bringing lower quality diet items, which indicates that perhaps they're not finding enough of the really good fish in order to feed their chicks.
Well, thank you, Dr. Craig. That's about all the time we have for today. We got to hear about how you got to your career position as well as tern feeding events. I'm Matthew Lynn of Shoals Marine Lab, and we'll see you next time.